People, I would say 99.9% of the people that I see who walk into my office do not have discipline.
Right.
And in any area and the places in their life where they do have discipline, they're successful.
Welcome to the podcast. Be halfway. The idea behind it is when I debate people, when I have discussions with people, I always want to meet them halfway where they're at, and I'm hoping that they can reciprocate that in return. Hopefully, we could get some guests here, opposing views, and then find a common ground, find a meet me halfway point in the conversation. And today, I want to discuss something that this man got a PhD on, and that's ego, and more importantly, humility. So ego has become something that we felt was, I think, necessary for survival, but an overinflated sense of ego has led us to places that we shouldn't be. It makes us narcissistic. It makes us all those buzzwords you could think of. It's really a detriment. So the question I'll ask you, because you're the expert, I'm the student.
Yeah.
And that's, what part does ego play in inner city communities, I'll say?
Right. I think first of all, we got to get rid of that term expert because everybody's living life and we're all experiencing different things from different perspectives. But I would say I focus more on the concept of what we see is the pro and cons of life to answer any question, right? Because there's light and there's darkness. And if we take those two extremes to even answer your question, I would be looking at, okay, past, present, or future present. What is that person present condition is telling you where they're coming from? So if you're past present, right, you're living in a place where there's no change because you're just in the hamster wheel syndrome of negativism and you're not moving anywhere. So your character isn't changing. But if you are future present, that's life, right? That's movement, that's growth, that's change. So if I was to answer that question, you're saying, what do I think about ego? That's a personality trait. So are you living for positivity or negativity? Are you living in darkness or are you living in light? So where would your ego be if you tried? Would you be humble in darkness? No. That'll be pride and ego. Let's go there. But if you are humble, you're in light. You're positive. You're future. So if I look at it from that perspective, I don't look at definition from someone's, let's say, view of looking at it. Rather, it's how we living our lives, we can actually define those things. Because that's what really it comes down to, right? Is relationship. So when we're using terminology to describe each other, are we defining what we're seeing in each other's behavior? And we're saying, that's ego, right? Rather than saying, what is causing him to behave that way? Which is more important, a definition or a practical assessment on a person's character? Especially if you want to be an advocate to help, which that's what I am for life. I'm an advocate to you as I've always been. So anything you ask me, I'm looking at the light of it. So instead of dwelling on the problem, I look at the solution. So ego is a problem when it's destructive. So it's nothing wrong with ego as long as it goes along with humility. But if it's pride and ego, then that's destruction.
Why is it this good? Destruction?
Well, because it doesn't benefit you and sure doesn't enhance relationships.
Then why do people do it?
Because they're programmed. So from birth to where we make major changes that from an
but what I'm saying in the scope of everything, where did it come from? I mean, something doesn't come from nothing.
No,
it came from a reason. That's why I said the whole survival thing, because I think survival, is one of the reasons why people develop like an inflated sense of ego.
Well, we can put perspectives on all the reasons that you may have a perspective on why. But the reality is, what is the goal in talking about what we're talking about? What is the reason that ego is a concern? Because there's more solution in that question rather than just wanting to define ego, which is a developmental lifestyle behavior process that no one can take responsible for. We're talking from antiquity to now. That has been part of the human condition psychologically, neurologically, intellectually, and all the other leads, right? So what is the goal in looking at ego?
Okay, so if you look at the application of ego, and then let's use the context of historical traits that made ego, birth ego. Where would ego have at some point, if not currently, been a benefit in application for us to thrive, succeed, progress, if at all? Or did it just become kind of like a poison that we just developed that overinflated sense of ego?
Well, it's just like all of the diagnostical impression that we see happening today, right? We have ADD, ADHD, OCD, PTSD, all these phrases. Ego is one of those. Somebody came up with that terminology to describe behavior. But I'm looking at behavior. I don't care about the definition of it. I need to find how can I help this person in their negative disciplinary consistent behavior pattern of destructive, attitude or interaction with their lives, because it's not profiting them. So what's more important? What that may be defined as, and that's what conventional medicine does. Name it, blame it, and try to tame it with psychotropic medication. That makes no sense. But what is the person doing? What is their life conviction? What is their belief system that is causing them to exhibit those behavioral patterns that we may describe as having a negative ego or pride or all these things, when there's manifestation that we are looking at and we're not dealing with? So I don't label people. I don't deal with symptom. I deal with cause. So ego is a symptom described. What is the cause?
Well, what is cause?
So if I was to ask you, if I was to ask you, are you, and being honest with yourself, even if you're getting better now, would you say that you have always been a very selfish person?
Yeah.
So that's the subconscious was glad to answer. Is it something you're proud of?
No.
Why not? If you've been like that all your life.
Because long term, especially, is destructive.
Are you asking or are you telling me? It's your life.
I think it's been destructive. It's maybe if there's short term benefits for myself, possibly
fulfillments.
Exactly.
Even if somebody's being destroyed.
In the long term, it's not good because you need selflessness in order to maintain healthy relationships with friends and otherwise.
Exactly. So look what we just did. If we had focused on ego, which has no life, but the person who has that label above them is not actually being attended to, as you just was describing you. So that's more important to me. How can we help you to get rid of this historical incarcerated mindset of self-destructive behavior that we call, involved with the ego and the pride? Then you're saying, I can see it's been a destructive lifestyle.
Okay, so if that's the case, how would I, in action, destroy or decrease the effects of the negativity that comes from the application of ego?
Well, that's a very important. Think about what is you're the common denominator to your life. You can listen. Remember that.
Yeah.
Right? Like we say, well, I don't want to say it because then if you're going to put on a shirt.
All right. Yeah.
But certain things we can say, people, places, and things. That's what you interact with every day. Right? The consequences of that interaction belongs to who?
Me.
And you asking or you telling?
No, I'm telling.
Okay. Well, you said me.
Well, yourself.
Right? So if you are the one who you're indicting as the sexual controller of your manifestation, then to ask me a question that you only could answer, I'll put that question right back on you. Because if you're saying you're in control and you're seeing you're dysfunctionally functioning and you're designed not to be that way anymore because the manifestation of it is not making you happy, people are not around you, you're not a magnet, you're a repeller, And now you have to look introspectively like, okay, I got to change some things. Because obviously the life I want, which is to be intimate, sensitive, compassionate, all the things that you want, you're not getting because of what you're giving.
Okay.
So isn't that more important to evaluate than to me labeling you with a behavior?
No, I get the label. The labels aside, I'm saying
Right.
like how would I stop that? You say that I'm my own cure, I'm my own remedy. I
Yes.
gotta,
Yeah.
heal this ego problem with,
Yeah.
let's say, humility. That's one
Yeah.
word that you would remedy it.
Right.
How would I keep myself on check if, like you said, I'm historically living and just reacting instead of being proactive? Like, it's not something that's gonna change overnight. If I'm used to eating pizza and donuts all day, every day, if I see it, I'm gonna grab it. I'm not even gonna think, should I eat this? I'm gonna know. I'm just gonna grab it and then worry about it later, and then think about it afterwards and probably shame myself.
So that, what did you just tell me? That I don't want to change. So once a person just told me what they're going to do, when the very thing they're going to do, they told me that it is not helping them to be well, but they're going to do it anyway. I cannot help that person. They have to have a desire to not only define the dysfunction, not like it, but also have a desire also to change. And that's where I can meet you halfway. You know what I'm saying? Because now you have humility. Pride won't want you to submit. Humility does.
Right.
For the change you need. So you have to have that humility birthed inside of you to humble yourself, to say, you know what, Glenn, I need to deal with this situation, man, because I'm tired of living like this. I see I'm the problem, and I will let you know also that you are the solution because you're telling me you're the problem. So obviously, if you're the problem, you're also part of that solution.
And what's crazy about that, a lot of times people know their problems and they tell themselves their own problems probably more than anybody else.
Yeah.
And then they go to like a therapist, they go to a friend, they go to just somebody on the street, whatever. And then they're basically asking them for advice on something they already know. They just need reassurance on what they already know in order to do it more because they want to like figure it out. But that goes back to something else that's, I think ego plays a part in ignorance, because if you have too much pride, then you're just gonna stay ignorant because you think you know it all.
Yeah. Well, and to be honest, the reason why I don't prescribe to certain terms, because whoever came up with the concept of ego, that's something that is an opinion and a prescription for thinking, but it does not change the reality of what you have to do. So ego is you ask 10 people what is ego, and you can probably get 10 different answers. So why focus on something that is obscure and really has no meaning, but why not deal with the integral part of your life that is actually dysfunctionally functioning? We don't need to put a label on it. We just need to deal with, in chronological order of importance. What do I want to change?
Right.
So if you're saying, I don't want to be so prideful and selfish anymore, because when I have been that way, I didn't have good relationship with my siblings, my parents, my friends, of my significant other. They all tell me that I'm a heartless, cold-blooded, selfish person, and I get defensive and I'm always combative, but I'm tired of that because that's not creating the life I want anymore, because I'm learning through my journey of dysfunction that I don't want to be dysfunctionally functioning anymore. Because that's an incarcerated program that all of us go through until we hit a part in our life where we want freedom from that. So that's why I say I'm dealing with people who are mentally incarcerated, not in prison like in jail, but they are in prison. And they want to be free or emancipated. So that's what I do. Help people to emancipate themselves from mental slavery, because none but ourselves can free our mind. That's Marcus Garvey, 1962. I think Bob Marley said it too.
Oh, I was about to say,
emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. There's only one person up there in the control center, but I can give you perspective.
So, I think this goes back because, like, I remember I had a friend. He said something so wise, but he just said it randomly. He said it's a lot easier to deny something than it is to accept something. Because when you accept something, you gotta hold the responsibility that comes with accepting it. Like, so it's easy to deny. So, in the context of, let's say, therapy, then I have without labeling, but I'm gonna ego. I don't want to go to therapy because I'm good. I'm good on my own.
Okay.
I don't want to open up in any type of way, even though I think people have a conception of therapy is once you walk in and you're and then that's like what you do. Maybe that happens sometimes, but for the most part, it's like I don't think that's actually it. How do you talk to somebody who has too much ego to emancipate themselves, even though they say they want
That's
to?
what they want.
And then you could give them all the tools. You could, you could teach a fish. You could, what is it? You teach a man how to fish, and you teach for a lifetime.
Right.
And you could, or you could give them a fish. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I think, like 2 words really to me as a clinician, because I live a life too. So humility and empathy has to be my calling card of what I use to even be sensitive to where you are. Because you say you want change, but I have to recognize where you are as you see you are for the change you say you are trying to get. So if I can empathize with that situational insight that you're going to teach me about how you're seeing your life, which is dysfunctional function, and you say you want change, can I relate to why you're in that place of self-abuse? Because it is self-abuse. Because if you was feeling good, then you would not want to change nothing. You want more of it. Right? So if you're feeling this discontentment or this lack of joy in yourself, that means there's a lot of stinking thinking going on. Negativity grounds positivity energy, right? So what I try to tell folks when I see them in that state, one thing I do know, they are not functioning with a constant positive mental attitude as a lifestyle mental perspective. They may be back and forth all the time, depending on the situation. But to me, it is important to make a definitive conviction that no matter what I have to deal with, people, places, and things, I will always maintain a positive mental attitude. Why? Because it's a choice. Right? You can say as a child, attitude is a learned behavior. But as an adult, it is an educated choice. You literally are choosing if you're going to be negative or positive as an adult. So if you come to me and you're saying, I don't want to, but I want to, then come back when you really want to. Because you can't have both as prospects.
Right.
One should be eliminated and one should be, planted, watered, and be consistently, disciplinedly developing.
I think it's your conscious fighting with your subconscious. Because you consciously say, I want to do this, but then the subconscious recreates that chaos. Exactly.
The subconscious is not changing. It's just repeating, developmental bad convictions that you have as a belief system. So like a lot of folks come to me and their self-esteem and their self-worth is very low. So in order to allow that person to really be self-loving again, they have to have value for themselves. But someone in their life, traumatically, developmentally, been crushing that development by, telling the child, just keep your mouth shut. Everything you open your mouth to say is always stupid. So that child believes that he's always going to keep his mouth shut because he doesn't want people to think he's stupid. So he starts building up a very negative perception of himself.
Right.
The parent may not have known that's what the child is doing, right? But that child starts that, so his personality is have a low self-esteem. And you will see it in people's lives all through until they revalue themselves to what they say they're worth. Because self-esteem and self-worth is an autonomous decision. Nobody is self.
Self, yeah.
You get it? So why would I listen to you? What you telling me I am? The thought belongs to the subject of the thought.
What's crazy, in my experience, is the people who deal with that issue the most in terms are typically, not typically, but like normally, they're very successful in their own way. Like you could probably tell them, at least my experience is, here's a paper. Write down all the successes you've had. And if you do it in a way that they're not like really in depth in their head, they'll just start writing down like a soliloquy of all the things that they've done and accomplished and all their skills. And, then it's almost like, I guess there's like this negative side, this negative perception of themselves. But then there's also this egotistical, like, and they're like living simultaneously where they feel like shit,
Yeah.
and but they think they the shit at the same time.
Well, and that's where that pride and ego causes you to stay in this vortex of stupidity or ignorance.
Yeah.
Like, and I love this quote by Martin Luther King. He said, the two most dangerous things in the world is sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. So some people are sincerely ignorant but have no desire to want to even educate themselves to change. But then they'll say they want change. But there's no application. And it's just like the other one who have the knowledge but refuse to use it but want change.
Right.
So normally, most of the time I ask clients who come in my office, are you sincerely ignorant or are you conscientiously stupid? Now, it's not a disrespectful statement, right? But I'm making sure they understand I'm their advocate. But I want them to be introspectively seeing how they're behaving with what they say they know already and still choosing to have a negative mental attitude about it. So that's stupidity.
What is with this? 'Cause, I think about this all the time.
Somebody's going to be saying, oh, you call me stupid. No, you call yourself stupid.
What is it with only taking advice from certain people who have like an outside perspective? So I see this happen mainly in relationships, like domestic. So this can be mother, child, whatever. Where you have the child and the child saying some real shit. The child like, yo, like, wow, you shouldn't do this, and that.
Yeah.
Or whatever it may be. Whatever, be quiet. But then the second the mother, the brother, sister, cousin, whatever, goes in front of a therapist or a doctor or some random person that for some reason they have some reverence towards, they listen to that advice. So they might listen to you, and then you're stuck like, I say that to you all the time.
Yeah.
Why don't you listen to me if I love you? This guy just met you, or this woman just met you.
Well, think about what that person have been observing from your character and all facets of your behavior, which is not consistent, because we talk about discipline so many times. So if you're telling me, if you had seen, you know me for a little bit, if my discipline was off and I'm telling you other things, I'm a hypocrite to what I'm saying. So who wants to listen to that? So a child looks at the parent, and what we normally say, look, well, you do it too. And the mother get defensive. Wait, what? I'm like, you don't do that. Do what I say. Don't do that. You didn't teach that. You told that child he should not listen to you because you didn't even want to listen to what he was saying to you about what you said to him, and you denied receiving it yourself. So why should that child listen to that person? Because the person says, I can do it, but you can't. But the child in this imprinting stage is learning how to limit.
But that's the thing, right is right, wrong is wrong. So it don't matter whose mouth it comes out of. Like I shouldn't have to have a PhD or a doctor next to my name for you to respect the truth.
Well, no, but what is showing me more of a consistent reference? Your behavior or what you're telling me? What's more long lasting? What people say or what they do?
Behavior. And
right? And we always say that I hear you when I see you. You know, what you do tells me what you're saying. And I can prove that. And if you hang around somebody long enough, you will know exactly who they are. But you have to be patient because they have a whole lot of habits that you have to see them perform. And then you don't know who they are. So most people put on facade when they come into a new relationship and everything, right? Because they don't want that person to know who they really are. Because we don't even love ourselves like that, even when we come to get into a relationship to say, I want love. But then we'll put on facades, and after the honeymoon period is over, then we start seeing who we really are. And it's coming out in all kind of ways, and you can't even put a plug on it. Like you're like, oh, Lord, why did I even get to this person? So did you come in to meet that person halfway as they are? Or did you have, a premeditated expectations that you had, and now because they're not fulfilling it, you have resentment? And that's what expectations are. Expectations are nothing more than premeditated resentment, because literally you're setting yourself up, looking for perfection from imperfection, and when it doesn't come, you have an attitude showing your imperfection, which you should have never had as an expectation in the first place.
Okay, so since we're talking about relationships, what do you think about uh what's the difference between expectations and, let's say, all those, again, buzzwords, red flags,
Yeah.
and uh, boundaries, and in that
Yeah.
realm, like, what's the difference? Because the way I'm looking, you saying expectations, but to me, I'm like, wait, hold on a second. Isn't me setting boundaries an expectation? I'm expecting you not to cross these lines.
No, you're setting boundaries that you're saying this is where you are going to set up your defense or your discipline. And that person is coming into your life. You're not expecting anything. You're giving them the place where there will be no boundary crossing in this situation. Like, for instance, if I have a relationship
Okay.
and I say, I don't use profanity, but I can't force you not to lose profanity. But if you do, that's crossing a red line. We can't talk. So,
Okay,
you
I get
understand
it.
what I'm saying? I'm not expecting you to not use profanity because it's up to you to decide if you want to have a relationship with me.
Right.
And we got to meet each other halfway.
Right. That's like saying burglary is against the law, but if you ain't doing it, then you're not breaking the law. So there's no need for, okay.
You know? And even in
I'm
that
not expecting you to break it.
right,
Yeah,
but and because in that situation too, because I'm human too, and I know I was dysfunctionally functioning in a lot of ways in my life, so I have to be empathetic and give you grace so that you can decide to want to minimize or eradicate that behavior. If I see you making efforts to really progress and get off of that language barrier you have for speaking, decency, but if you want to be with me, then you will do it because it's more important. The relationship is then your habitual behavior pattern is my way or the highway. Then be alone. You know what I'm saying? You don't need to compromise with anyone. If you still want to be exactly who you are, but you're coming to collaborate, cooperate, and compromise with another human being. That calls for humility and empathy because you want change. We're going in a new direction, not where you came from, not where I came from. We're going in a new direction. You need more tools because it's both of us now. It's we. It's no longer I. You know what I mean? So that's why I say you may have sometimes get 49% and you may have to give up 51 sometimes. But you never gonna get 100%. You can't. You gotta meet me halfway. And I'll compromise and I'll empathize and I'll let you have some. And you let me have some, because we're supposed to have each other eyes good. Right? So it just can't be one-sided. So I'm more practically looking at all the things you may ask me as questions because they're very practical. And we need to be more practical rather than theoretical or looking at things and ego. What the heck? I'm living here with you right here. You got a world of dysfunction and you say you want to clean yours up. I could empathize because I'm cleaning mine up. How can we bridge the gap to come and support each other and be something great within ourselves and support the greatness of somebody else?
At what point is love not enough and you should, at least in action, give up? Because, like you mentioned, the word that I've been working on myself, and that's empathy. Like, I can empathize with somebody with my experiences, understanding where they came from and where they were at, and know that they can get somewhere else. So, but at what point do you just give up on that? Because I talk to people a lot, especially when it comes to the context of like intimate relationships. And I always tell, especially women, don't mess with a guy if he's not already on the pathway towards improvement. Because if not, I think that's frivolous and just useless. Because you should need somebody already running, not telling somebody, hey, you should start running. It's like, no, they should already be there in the middle of a stride, and you might want to catch on, and then you can empathize with them and be like, okay, well, I'm working with you the same way. I hope you can reciprocate that and work with me in return. So at what point do you give up that and you say, empathy is cool and all, but I am not going to empathize with you to a detriment to myself, because that's not going to help me or you, because I'm enabling and you're behaving and I'm, basically taking the collateral damage of everything that I'm giving you.
All right. So I'm assuming both people are on the same page of decision making, that they have a desire to cultivate a relationship with each other. I'm assuming that's the foundation
Yes.
of your question. William didn't say it,
Yes.
but it
Yes.
has to be.
Yeah. That's a
Right?
prerequisite of a lovely relationship.
Yeah. So we know they're designed to go into the same direction. They're both coming from two different vantage points in life, totally different from each other. You have a world, she has a world. You're coming together to form a union, and you want love to be the foundation of that union. But we both made a decision to do that together. So it's important to say, if we did make a decision, that means we're both having a positive mental attitude about cultivating this thing we call love.
And
We're assuming that is also a part of the reality already, though people don't look at that.
yeah.
But I'm micromanaging it now to show you how important it is to even see it from the womb to the tomb, so to speak. You're going to have to birth that. You're going to have to plant the seed of love. Because love, is an action verb. It is a practical application of complicated, seasonings and everything else that is from a divine perspective, which, if you think about, it's something that man does not know how to really be on its own.
What exactly?
What you call love. So I'm saying to you is that decision to cultivate love, because it has to be planted by how we see each other, how we say we're submissive to each other, compassionate, sensitive to each other. It takes all those virtuous things to cultivate love, because it's a selfless thing. You can't come into it selfish and having it my way. That's not love. So I'm saying, to answer your question, these foundational pieces have to first be part of what those two people are saying. Yes, I'm going to maintain a positive mental attitude to cultivate love. So, okay, great. We said we're going to do that. Next thing, what is our definition of love going to be? Because everybody have a totally different understanding, independent of each other, of what they believe the definition of love is. So if I'm coming, when me and my wife came together, we had to define what our love life was going to engulf, and all of the virtues thing that we're talking about, the humility, the compassion, the having each other high is good. She's my queen, I'm a king, making sure we are never denigrating each other's character, but lifting it up. All those things is maintaining a positive mental attitude, and you form your definition of love with that person, because you cannot share that with anybody else. So hopefully that might be a better way of, looking at.
Okay, so all of that put together.
Yeah.
Definition.
So it has to be defined.
Me and you agree on the definition. When somebody else, whatever. Now, they're still acting one way, but you gotta understand, and change ain't gonna happen overnight.
No, it's a process.
So at what point am I like, yo, this change is taking a while. Like, I've been here for a while. Like, I'm like, you said you would stop doing this. You said you was gonna work on it, and then they're doing it, but without the inconsistently and with the lack of discipline in that consistency. So
are they doing it?
You're taking the collateral damage. You know what I mean?
All right. So,
well, it depends on what it is. Like, it depends on what it is, because there could be a million different things where that might be an example.
Well, when I do deal with couples that come and they already, been functioning in their relationship, because they came in guns blazing, no one was really compromising or nothing. They have their ideology of what life is supposed to be. The woman might have been raised by a single mother or whatever. So they have their own perspective, and they have to come and bring all that program that they have and bring it with your program and come together and find that we need new software now, because we want to go that way. So we have to really, when I get couples and I ask them, what's your goals? And I normally ask them independent of each other, because I want to see if they synchronize. And most times they can't tell me the same thing. So I was like, first of all, you have to have the same goals. And if you have the same goals as a design life of love, then that has to be strategic. So that means we have to create strategies that we're going to follow consistently, because then it's going to call for self-discipline. And if my wife and I didn't have self-discipline, then we did not have a goal to achieve the peace that we have, because we have to follow strategies. And one of those strategies could be not only having each other high is good, but never demeaning, never belittling, but always treasuring and always admiring. And, having a positive mental attitude is part of the strategy for a healthy relationship, period. And it calls for discipline. So I always say self-discipline is the ability to be strategic and consistent in achieving your goal. I don't care what you try in life, it will call for that. Because if you have a goal, you got to have a strategy. If you don't have a strategy, you got chaos. Strategy, you have to be consistent, and consistency spells discipline. Self-discipline is the key. But you got to know where you go. And most people don't have definitive goals. So they're grabbing everything, and once things don't go right, they want to let go. Like crabs in a barrel syndrome, if it ain't my way, you know what I mean? So they're not really on. So I always tell couples, we might have to go back and create new software and create a foundation of sensitivity and compassion and empathy and humility. And really see what we were doing that wasn't conducive to even the goal that we said we really wanted, which was harmony, which was love and affection and all the wonderful things that a couples can have in the midst of adversity, because we got to deal with the world, people, places, and things. But we deal with the world. The world don't deal with us, in my own. You know what I'm saying? Because we have a formula, and it's consistent, and it demands discipline. And the kids are even learning discipline, because that's what we know is the best thing for us to have a stable life. Anybody, right? Most of the people, I would say 99.9% of the people that I see who walk into my office do not have discipline. Right. And in any area, and the places in their life where they do have discipline, they're successful. Or there's stability. There's not chaos, because they have to maintain a positive mental attitude in order to be successful at anything. Right. I don't care what it is. Go into the bathroom. You know what I'm saying? If you're not positive, you might not, miss your mark. So if you just don't care, you're just doing whatever because your eyes are closed, that's going to be a problem. So most people's eyes are closed to their very existing reality of why they're not achieving the goals that they say they have.
And I think it goes back to what we always talking about in the beginning. the whole ego thing too. Like, like label or not, it's like,
right.
So it's big time right there. It's like,
it's bigger than a label. It's reality.
Yeah.
And it's the distorted one that we're living, but when we see dysfunction.
But again, I'm gonna go back to I'm gonna put it on a communal level. How did that become a thing? And by communal level, I think you can understand where I come from.
Yeah, well, everything starts in the home, man. So as a community, if I'm living in a certain environmental degradational world where I grew up as a child, that whole environment cultivated a certain character in me, because there was trauma, drama, all that, stuff that I would wish no kid had to go through. But when I look back, that was my classroom. And because of that, I am who I am today. Wow. So I don't look back at the past as bad.
Wow.
When I learned, it was good lessons. So why would I look at my history as bad? When I see people doing that, I'm like, man, you're missing out on what lessons did you learn? So there's a poem, it goes out, this poem I have, it said, I walked 1,000 miles with pleasure, and he chatted all the way. But not one lesson have I learned from what pleasure had to say. Wow. But I walked 1 mile with sorrow, and oh, how silent was she. But what great lessons I have learned when sorrow walked with me. We don't learn from pleasure. We learn from pain. You know what I'm saying? So my history is what, prescribed to me providentially for me to go through. So I'm not looking, I don't have hate, anger, malice. I'm future present. I'm not past present. That's what I learned from. But what am I creating now? Now, that's why I say you're the antidote. Yeah. But you could also be the problem. Right. So
there's actually a term, and I'm sure you're familiar with it. There's post-traumatic stress, they say. That's the label. Then there's post-traumatic growth. And it's growing from your past traumatic events. And people always focus on the PTSD, and it's like instead of looking at
the rearview mirror, it's a distance. But where are you going? That's where you're gonna need power, right? You got to go forward. You're gonna have light. You're not gonna be walking in darkness going into your future. If you are, then you might as well stay where you are. And most people are stagnant because they don't have goals that are future present. They're still trying to deal with the past present reality that's already lived, which cannot be regurgitated in no way, shape, or form. And you're carrying baggage now when you should be creating.
Well, it's not even your baggage. It's baggage from
the history.
Great.
Listen, from antiquity.
Yeah.
But I always tell folks, if you think about this, and you have to micromanage this to anything in your life, if a problem can be solved by one act or actions of mine or yours, then you don't have problems. You have opportunities to act because you're the one who's defining whatever you have in front of you as a problem. Why is it a problem? How did you define it as a problem? That's a negative, perspective. Maybe you might say, well, I don't want it. Well, reality says, ta-da. So who gives a what you think? Life is lifing, and how you deal with it is more important than what it's doing, right? So what is the solution to a problem? Well, if I say it's a problem, it must be me. Because obviously if I have the opposite and I'm saying, this is the problem, well, what can I do to not allow that to be consistently in my life? Even if I have to leave someone because they're so toxically destructive and they have no desire to change at all, but I want that person so bad. Whose fault is it for me to be miserable for the rest of my life? Not that person, me. Because I'm saying you're a problem, and I know by leaving, I'm solutioning my problem. But I will stay there because I want you. But then you don't want to be free. You want to be enslaved because that's your codependency, because you're not even depending on yourself for your freedom. You're looking for somebody else to make you happy. And nobody can make another person happy. They can share their happiness with you, but they can't make you happy. I don't know what makes you happy. My wife don't make me happy. She shares her happiness with me, and I don't make her happy. I share my happiness with her. I do wonderful things for her. She does wonderful, but we determine what makes us have a state of mind of happiness, right? Happiness is a state of mind. It's not materialistic. It doesn't have any tangible thing to hold on to. If that was the case, we'd be happy all the time when we get that one thing we love so much, right? Or we could get some new sneakers, we're happy for a moment and we want another one. Yeah. So is that happiness? No, it's fulfillment.
I remember reading a book, and I would bring out this book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. That's the name of the book. And in the book, it's hilarious. He said, if you want to be happy all the time, then just do heroin. He said, because it's like, I'm not sure if it was that book or his second book. There was another book called Happiness is a Problem, or Everything is Fun. Happiness is a Problem, or something along those lines.
Yeah. The power is in us, in every facet. And yes, we are programmed in a certain part of our lives. And I always have to, that's why I say empathy is important, because, and I don't care what culture all over the world, from birth to a certain level, even science tells us there's a certain developmental phase cognitively when we are able to rationalize and reason and be logical to make changes, right?
Right.
That's the intellectual part of our development. But from birth, say around 24, 25, and you're living and developing, but your brain is not able, your cognitive ability doesn't have that intellectual adult development yet to deal with life like that. That's a real transition for everybody.
Man,
you know what I'm saying?
You just hit side, because I will say, I remember I wrote I was doing the poetry for a little bit, and I wrote a poem. And in the poem, like I broke down almost everything you're talking about, like in so many different ways. But one thing that I came to awareness while I was writing the poem was that we're all, not all, but like for the most part, grown children. And I said that I'm a child and a man. Life doesn't go as planned.
And that's my book. It ain't out yet. mentally incarcerated. There's the insanity of humanity. Why? Because from birth until we get to that adult stage, we will be dysfunctionally functioning, trying to figure out life and adding all of the tutelages that is around us, not only on the television. Now we see what our kids are.
Oh, it's crazy.
I mean, how are we going to hold them to let's say teachings of what our great grandparents may have taught us about civility and respect and love and to have faith in God. And matter of fact, don't even mention God nowadays, because it's like, so you have a whole lot of things that was holding people in check, that was from a divine perspective, that has been just obliterated in a way. It's not gone, because the remnant will always hold on to it. So, and those are the folks who I'm saying can only master that humility and empathy, because that's the only people who will be able to love. You can't love with pride. Yeah, it's too selfish, right? So love is a selfless concept. It's giving all of yourself for the highest good of others. That's the definition from even a biblical perspective. And even when I apply it in my life, I'm prescribing to that because it's real. But you won't know unless you apply to it.